Friday the 13th. Jeff Cork, you've been playing a lot of it. You two have been screaming at each other. What is the consensus so far on Friday the 13th?
I'd say it's really fun when it works.
And what holds it back from working?
Just connectivity issues, the servers, a lot, like you said, a lot of jankiness going on in there. And I think there are some design tweaks that should really happen.
So that's what's under the hood. On the surface level, I hear a lot of you guys screaming and saying, "Oh my God, Jason's right there! Yeah. He's right here! He's coming for us! He's swimming through the water like a dolphin!" So this seems like, I know Tim Turry in particular, when we talked about it years ago, this seems like the Friday the 13th game that people say they wanted for a long time, where it's kind of a multiplayer horror experience, right?
And that works really well.
Okay.
And they did a great job on the fan service. I think there have been a number of times where I've been playing and it's, I don't want to say straight out of a movie, but it captures like those all the moments that you remember from all the movies, where you'll have two guys trying to escape in a boat, and at the last second, he'll lunge out of the water in exactly the same way that you remember from the movies, and tip them over and then sink them down in, or he'll smash through a door and grab your head and do all the different kind of execution kills and stuff.
And like those jump scares, even when another player is controlling Jason, works well.
Yeah. They still work well. And they throw in a bunch. I have jumped multiple times just when you see a dead body, because they'll kind of do these screeching violins and they'll pull in super tight, and your character will scream and I'll still jump like an idiot playing it.
Never mind the fact that more often than not, the dead body that you're seeing has ragdolled like a folding chair.
Well, what's more terrifying than seeing a loved one ragdoll?
And that's a good point.
So it just feels like it's basically Evolve, right? As someone who reviewed Evolve, can you draw any comparison to that?
Yeah, and I've been thinking a lot about that, especially in terms, because I think I liked Evolve more than a lot of people did, and the number one complaint was that there's not enough content. And, in this one, you kind of have three very similar maps, and you have basically one bad guy, although there are several variations.
It's different skins, right, from different movies?
Yeah.
With different abilities
they have different, well, the abilities are the same, but they kind of have different stats associated with, how long the cooldowns and stuff like that last. And so I would say the biggest difference, though, is the tone, where in Evolve, you had four people who were trying to hunt down this monster, and in this one, you're really just trying to escape that monster, and it does have a much more of a survival horror feel.
So basically, I'll pull back for your benefit.
Yeah.
The premise of the game is it starts off with the same guy in a blue plaid shirt getting hit in the back with an axe or pickaxe or some weapon.
Every match.
Everyone scatters, and then it's like, then 5 minutes later, survive. And there are several different ways you can do that. You can outlast everyone, which takes 15, 20 minutes or something.
Yeah, 20. It's a 20-minute match.
You can outwit.
You can outplay. You can outlast. Or you can find a fuse and repair the phone, which will enable you to call the police. And then that sets a timer for 5 minutes, at which point the police are there, but you have to run to a tunnel and get there in time. You can gas up a car or a boat. And both of those need another item to get them going. So you need a propeller for the boat. You also need battery for the car, as well as keys. So you're kind of like looking around the camps and cabins for these items to escape. And the whole time Jason is hunting you, and it's asymmetric in the fact that obviously he's Jason, but he has abilities. He can warp around, which they call morphing. Confusingly,
you can morph around the map, which is not how that word works.
But whatever.
Okay,
close enough. The jankiness is all encompassing.
Yeah.
But it's very tense because of course, you can only carry the gas can, but that means you can't carry a weapon with you. And weapons are very limited and will only stun Jason. So you could hit him with a shotgun, for instance. It'll knock him over like a tree, but he'll come back in like 20 seconds. So it's just enough time to run away and temporarily escape, hopefully drawing him into the path of like a fellow player.
Yeah.
To buy you some time.
Do you feel like with all those different strategies, have you guys started to see the code of the Matrix here and realize like, okay, it's a formula, let's just go for plan B, push forward? Or do you feel like it's dynamic enough where even if we're playing it for like a week, it's still interesting?
Yeah, kind of. You can't just do one formula, because all the different pieces that you need to activate one of the escape routes are randomized. So you always have to find them in the map. So you can't just say, well, okay, let's we're always going to go for the car. We're always going to go for the boat.
Like the car has the advantage if you can have up to 4 people can make an escape simultaneously. The boat can only carry 2.
Ooh, so you can leave someone behind?
Oh, people get left behind all the time.
I've never had another person with me in the boat. Like as soon as I get that going, it's like,
yeah. And one interesting design thing is when you die, you can call in Tommy. What's his Jarvis?
Tommy Jarvis.
Yeah, he's a character from the movies, but basically he comes back with a shotgun and he can try and help other people escape. Except so whoever escapes or dies first or whatever, they're the ones who get to come back, which is kind of nice that you're not waiting the full 20 minutes if you're the first person to die. But when Cork plays him, he comes back and then he immediately tries to leave again and screws over everyone else, which is a nice touch.
Wow.
It seemed like this entire game was elevated to another level when you finally got to play as Jason. It's very much like the Metal Gear Solid 3 multiplayer, which everyone remembers, where it randomizes who gets to play as Snake. And when it's finally your turns, okay, let's go. Do you feel like in control and like that's where the game's at its sweet spot?
It is so much better when you're Jason. And they do a good job of making him as overpowered as you would hope that he would be. He's still slow, so most of the characters are going to outrun you. But the abilities let you kind of morph or warp, in front of them and kind of set up this exactly the kind of situations that you expect in horror movies where, the person will be running away from you and they'll turn around a corner and you're standing right there and you grab them, for the big scare and kill.
With a lot of cackling.
Like that. Yes.
It's interesting and somewhat frustrating the way that it happens too. It just randomly selects someone to be Jason, but in your profile you can say, I have a preference to be a counselor or Jason. I have said I would like to be Jason. I have yet to be him. And I've played probably more than a dozen matches at this point. And it's frustrating because a game like this, it's largely dependent on kind of outwitting your opponent. And I don't fully understand the tools that Jason has because I have not played as him. So I don't know exactly what he's seeing. I have watched Fava on his screen, but I mean, it's frustrating because I feel like to be a better counselor, you need to fully understand what Jason is, how he works mechanically. So you can be like, oh, if I crouch, it really doesn't make that much of a difference. Or maybe it makes a huge difference. I don't know.
Yeah.
So that's kind of annoying.
Turns out when you have, 7 people playing as a counselor and 1 playing as Jason, everyone wants to be Jason. I'm sure everyone in their preference has, Jason checked off. So I've gotten to play as him 2.5 times, I think. And the half was because the character who was hosting left, and so we all got kicked out and no one got XP that round. And
when you're talking about a game that can last 20 minutes and no one gets XP or any progression for that, it's a real bummer.
Yeah.
So are you guys just playing it in a very ideal scenario where you have a full team, like 4 friends playing it, it feels great, and that's what's leading to so much fun and cackling and screaming in the audience? Do you think the average player can have that, or is it more janky than I realize under the hood here?
It's pretty janky. I'd say we've been having about half of a team of us, and I've been playing it, some solo, and it's fun either way. It's definitely more fun when you have a bunch of people that you want to actually hear through your headsets and you're kind of coordinating where everything is and trying to get together and stuff like that.
Yeah. So, I mean, would you recommend it to someone who wants another Evolve-like experience or a new take on survival horror?
I mean, that's what I have been wrestling with and will, for the next couple days, trying to figure out where this lands, both on our review scale and kind of recommendation, because there have been some really fun moments that, I'd say Eclipse, Evolve, and probably remind me a lot of Left 4 Dead would be the other one where, you're trying to figure out, you want to wait for your friends to come with you, but sometimes you just have to leave them behind and you look in the rearview mirror as they're being choked out and things like that. But at the same time, it has just been such a technical mess that it's really hard. We have, spent so much time waiting to try and get into a match. You get put in it, you get kicked out of the lobby because there's, some kind of problem with it. And then just on the design side of it, it really does suck when you die in the first couple minutes and then you have to wait 17 minutes if you don't get picked. Sometimes, even we'll have matches where we escape and it's really exciting, the lead up to it, but then you're still left for the 10 minutes where there's one character left and, he's hiding under a bed somewhere, and Jason just can't find him.
So you were looking through that person's eyes for 10 minutes, or
That's
you can like
ridiculous that it makes you stay in the game no matter what, even if you lose and you just want to get out and go play another one. That's terrible.
Or if you escape, and it's
just
like
stupid.
You have nothing to contribute at that point. You might as well just let him, free him up and let those guys get out of there and get into a different game.
And to be fair, it can be, if you do have a couple of survivors, it can be really fun to spectate too.
Yeah, sometimes it is.
You're just like, oh my God, these two people know what they're doing. They're evading. They're using traps effectively. It's super exciting.
But the other limitation of that too is that you can't follow Jason as he's playing.
Mm-hmm. Right.
And I guess they do that so that you can't give hints to, the other people. But it's like, just cut the mics at that point and let you spectate Jason, because that's the most interesting part.
Well, you could always be using Discord or like another service. So
they aren't that technical to begin with, because if you're in a party and you turn into Jason, I can still hear everyone else on their mics, as they're talking about how they're trying to evade and stuff.
Oh, that's interesting. Thank you so much for watching this excerpt from the Game Informer Show podcast. You can subscribe to the audio version and listen to new episodes airing every Thursday. We cover big games on the horizon, games that we've just reviewed. We have long-form developer interviews, a lot of fun stuff. So check it out every Thursday.